Beneath the windswept shores of Nova Scotia lies a mystery that has taunted treasure hunters for centuries, a gaping hole in the earth known as the Oak Island Money Pit. Stretching deep into the island's heart, this cryptic shaft has swallowed fortunes, claimed lives, and sparked endless speculation. Who built it? What were they hiding? And why, despite generations of relentless pursuit, has no one ever uncovered its secrets? The story of Oak Island isn't just about gold or jewels. It's a labyrinth of clues, riddles, and theories so compelling that even the most skeptical minds can't help but wonder, is this the world's greatest unsolved treasure hunt or history's most elaborate hoax? Picture this, it's 1795, and a group of teenagers stumbles upon a strange, circular depression in the ground. Above it, an old oak tree bears the marks of a long-forgotten pulley system. As they dig, their shovels strike layers of logs, coconut fibers, and even mysterious stone tablets etched with cryptic symbols. With every foot they descend, the pit fights back, flooding with seawater, collapsing in on itself as if designed to guard its contents. Over the next 200 years, wealthy industrialists, famous inventors, and even a U.S. president would throw their resources into the chase, only to walk away bankrupt or baffled. The deeper the mystery goes, the more bizarre the theories become, from pirate stashes and lost Templar treasures to Shakespearean manuscripts and Marie Antoinette's jewels. But here's the twist, the real treasure might not be gold at all. What if the money pit was never about wealth, but something far more valuable: knowledge? Ancient engineers who predate Columbus, advanced lost civilizations, or even fragments of history rewritten. That's the magic of Oak Island. It's a puzzle where every clue leads to more questions, where science and legend collide, and where the thrill of discovery is just as intoxicating as the promise of riches. So grab your shovel and your curiosity, because today we're digging into the tangled history, the wildest theories, and the shocking new evidence that could finally crack the case. The Oak Island Money Pit isn't just a hole in the ground. It's a story about obsession, ingenuity, and the human spirit's refusal to give up, even when the odds seem impossible. Ready to uncover the truth? Let's begin. The story of Oak Island's Money Pit truly begins on a quiet summer day in 1795, when a young man named Daniel McGinnis made a discovery that would ignite one of history's most enduring treasure hunts. While exploring the island's dense woods, McGinnis noticed something odd: a circular depression in the earth, roughly 12 feet wide, as if the ground had sunk inward. Above it, an ancient oak tree stood with its branches oddly scarred, deep grooves cut into the bark as if ropes had once dangled from its limbs. The scene was too deliberate to be natural. McGinnis, along with two friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan, couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. They grabbed their shovels and started digging. What they uncovered would baffle them and countless others for centuries to come. Just 2 feet down, their shovels struck a layer of neatly arranged flagstones, foreign to the island's natural geology. Digging deeper, they hit a platform of sturdy oak logs, each one carefully embedded into the sides of the pit. 10 feet below that, another layer of logs identical in construction. And beneath that, a bed of coconut fibers, strange and out of place on a Canadian island where such tropical material had no business being. The deeper they went, the more the pit seemed engineered, layered like a fortress protecting something precious. Local legends only fed the fire of their obsession. Rumors swirled of long-dead pirates, whispered tales of Captain Kidd burying his plundered riches or Spanish galleons hiding stolen New World gold. But what truly set the mystery ablaze was the pit's defiance. Every attempt to reach its depths was met with resistance. At 30 feet, water began seeping in slowly at first, then in torrents, flooding the shaft faster than they could bail it out. The boys realized they weren't just digging through dirt. They were battling an elaborate system of booby traps, tunnels designed to flood the pit the moment it was disturbed. Someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to keep this secret buried. Word of their discovery spread, drawing prospectors, scholars, and adventurers to the island. Each new excavation brought fresh clues and fresh frustration. In 1802, the Onslow Company took up the hunt, reaching 90 feet before hitting a stone slab inscribed with cryptic symbols. Some claimed it read, 40 feet below, 2 million pounds are buried. But before they could dig further, the pit flooded again, as if the island itself was guarding its prize. Over the decades, fortunes would be spent, lives lost, and theories multiplied, yet the money pit refused to give up its secret. Was it a pirate's vault? A lost Templar treasure, or something even more extraordinary? One thing was certain: Oak Island had already begun weaving its spell. The boys who first sunk their shovels into that strange depression had unwittingly opened a door to history's greatest unsolved riddle, and 200 years later, we're still trying to pick the lock. Among the earliest and most persistent theories about the money pit's origins is the idea that pirates, those swashbuckling outlaws of the high seas, dug this elaborate vault to hide their stolen riches. And it's easy to see why this theory took hold. The late 17th and early 18th centuries were the golden age of piracy, when figures like Captain William Kidd and Blackbeard terrorized shipping lanes, amassing fortunes in gold, silver, and jewels. These pirates needed secure places to stash their loot far from prying eyes. Oak Island, with its secluded coves and dense forests, would have been the perfect hiding spot. Take Captain Kidd, for example. Though he started as a privateer, a government-sanctioned pirate, he was eventually branded a criminal and hanged in 1701. Before his execution, he allegedly claimed to have buried treasure worth a king's ransom, where no man would ever find it. Could Oak Island have been that place? The island's location off the coast of Nova Scotia made it an ideal stopover for ships crossing the Atlantic, yet remote enough to evade authorities. The intricate flooding tunnels in the money pit even resemble the kind of traps pirates were known to use, booby traps designed to drown anyone who dared disturb their treasure. But Kidd wasn't the only suspect. Privateers like Sir Francis Drake and Henry Morgan also operated in these waters, capturing Spanish galleons loaded with New World wealth. Some historians point to the coconut fibers found in the pit as a crucial clue. Coconuts weren't native to Canada, but they were common cargo on Caribbean-bound ships, often used as packing material. Did a crew of privateers haul this exotic material north to conceal their plunder? Then there's the infamous pirate cipher theory. In the early 1800s, a stone slab was reportedly pulled from the pit, inscribed with strange symbols. Some claimed it was a coded message, a map leading to buried treasure. Though the stone itself mysteriously vanished, copies of the symbols survive, and amateur cryptographers have spent decades trying to crack them. Could this be the final taunt of a long-dead pirate, daring future generations to solve his riddle? Yet for all the romantic appeal of pirate lore, there are holes in the theory. Most pirates preferred quick, accessible hiding places, shallow graves on familiar islands, not elaborate, flood-prone constructions requiring engineering skill. And why go to such lengths in Nova Scotia when the Caribbean offered countless uninhabited cays? The pirate theory keeps us dreaming of wooden chests overflowing with doubloons, but the truth might be even stranger. Because if it wasn't pirates, who else could have built something this complex? While pirates make for thrilling suspects, another theory about Oak Island's money pit veers into even more extraordinary territory, one tied to an ancient order of warrior monks shrouded in myth and legend, the Knights Templar. This theory suggests that beneath Oak Island lies not just treasure, but sacred relics of unimaginable historical significance, hidden by the Templars centuries before Columbus ever set foot in the Americas. The Templars, originally formed to protect Christian pilgrims during the Crusades, grew into one of medieval Europe's most powerful and secretive organizations. By the 14th century, they were disbanded and hunted, accused of heresy by King Philip IV of France. But what if some of them escaped? Legends claim the surviving Templars fled with their vast wealth and possibly sacred artifacts like the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail, seeking refuge far from Europe's reach. Here's where Oak Island comes in. Supporters of the Templar theory point to curious clues scattered across the island. Take, for instance, the mysterious stone slab pulled from the pit in the early 1800s, inscribed with symbols some believe resemble Templar ciphers. Then there's the triangular swamp, where researchers have uncovered what appear to be man-made stone formations eerily similar to Templar markers found in Europe. Even the elaborate flooding tunnels in the Money Pit echo the kind of advanced engineering the Templars were known to employ in their fortresses and cathedrals. Perhaps the most compelling link lies in Nova Scotia's early history. The name itself means New Scotland, and the region was settled in part by Scots with ties to Freemasonry, an organization rumored to have inherited Templar secrets. Some researchers argue that early explorers like Henry Sinclair, a Scottish nobleman with Templar connections, reached North America long before Columbus, possibly using Oak Island as a secret repository for their most precious relics. But could the Templars, or their descendants, really have constructed something this complex in the New World centuries before mainstream history claims Europeans arrived? Skeptics dismiss the idea as fantasy, yet the sheer volume of coincidences keeps the theory alive. Whether it's the alignment of strange rock carvings with medieval star charts or the discovery of a centuries-old lead cross buried near the pit, each new find adds another layer to the enigma. So if it wasn't pirates and it wasn't the Templars, who else could have engineered this labyrinth? The answer might lie even deeper in history, pointing to a civilization lost to time. Another tantalizing thread in Oak Island's tangled web leads us to the shadowy world of Freemasonry. This centuries-old fraternity, steeped in secrecy and symbolism, has long been rumored to have ties to the Money Pit, not just as treasure hunters but as its original architects. Could the pit's intricate design, with its geometric precision and layered defenses, be a Masonic blueprint? Let's follow the clues. Start with the pit's construction itself. The alternating layers of logs, stone, and coconut fiber aren't just functional. They mirror the symbolic degrees of Masonic initiation, each layer representing a step toward hidden knowledge. Even the flooding tunnels align eerily with Masonic lore. Ancient rituals speak of the drowning of secrets, a metaphorical purification by water. Was the pit's relentless flooding a literal representation of this belief, designed to protect sacred artifacts from the unworthy? Then there's the island's infamous triangular swamp, a boggy depression that forms a near-perfect equilateral triangle, a shape rich with Masonic significance. When surveyors mapped it, they found its angles matched the dimensions of Masonic tracing boards, tools used to teach moral lessons through geometry. More startling, the swamp's orientation aligns with celestial events, much like Masonic temples designed to harness the sun's solstice light. Could this be a deliberate landmark pointing toward something buried beneath? Symbols etched into stones uncovered near the pit deepen the mystery. One, dubbed the 100-foot stone, bore markings resembling Masonic stonemasons' marks, codes used to identify craftsmen's work in medieval cathedrals. Another, discovered in the 1800s, displayed a crude arrow and cross, motifs found in Templar and Masonic iconography. Even the oak tree that once stood above the pit fits the puzzle. In Masonic tradition, the oak symbolizes strength and endurance, often planted atop sacred sites. But perhaps the most compelling argument for Masonic involvement lies in the historical record. Many of Oak Island's early excavators, from the Onslow Company to later treasure hunters like Franklin Roosevelt, were Freemasons. Their private journals hint at cryptic knowledge, references to ancient workings, and sacred geometry guiding their digs. Was this mere coincidence, or did they know something we've yet to uncover? Skeptics argue these connections are retroactive, that people see Masonic patterns because they're looking for them, yet the sheer volume of parallels is hard to dismiss. If the money pit is a Masonic vault, what might it hold? Some whisper of lost scrolls containing esoteric wisdom, or even fragments of the fabled Solomon's treasure the Templars allegedly guarded. Others suggest it's not gold but a spiritual test, a physical labyrinth designed to mirror the Masonic journey toward enlightenment. One thing's certain: whether the Freemasons built the pit or merely inherited its secrets, their fingerprints are all over this mystery. And that leaves us with a haunting question. If the symbols are real, who among us can decipher them? The American Revolution wasn't just a war of muskets and battlefields. It was a shadowy conflict of hidden riches and desperate gambles. And some believe Oak Island's money pit might hold the smoking gun. During the late 1700s, as British forces faced mounting losses, Loyalist officers and engineers could have engineered this labyrinth as a last-ditch vault for crown jewels, military payrolls, or even explosive political documents. Think about it. Nova Scotia remained fiercely loyal to the British Crown, making it the perfect bolt hole for retreating forces. The pit's precision, those perfectly spaced log platforms, the intricate flood tunnels reeks of military engineering, the kind only trained sappers or Royal Navy specialists could execute. Take the infamous 90-foot stone. When deciphered by 19th-century scholars, its symbols reportedly pointed to £2 million buried below. That sum wasn't just random, it matched the exact amount the British military allegedly smuggled out of Boston before evacuating in 1776. Even the flooding mechanism aligns with historical tactics. British forces were notorious for using water as a defensive weapon, like when they scuttled ships in Halifax Harbour to block French fleets. Could the money pit's saltwater traps be their handiwork? A final, scorched earth move to deny rebels their prize. Then there's the curious case of the HMS Peggy. Records show this British warship vanished near Nova Scotia in 1780, carrying something or someone so valuable that Admiralty logs were later scrubbed clean. Local folklore claims its crew buried a payload on Oak Island before disappearing. The timing fits. The pit's first recorded excavation happened just 15 years later, when those teenagers stumbled upon the depression. Were they unknowingly following a trail of clues left by fleeing loyalists? But here's the kicker. In 2014, researchers drilling near the pit unearthed a centuries-old metal fragment. Lab tests revealed it was smelted with a unique alloy, one matching British cannon forged methods from the Revolutionary era. And it wasn't alone. Sonar scans later detected what looked like a ship's hull buried deep in the island's bedrock. If proven, this could rewrite history. Imagine an entire vessel, possibly packed with wartime contraband, sealed beneath Oak Island by redcoats who never returned. The British theory isn't just about treasure, it's about secrets. Letters between exiled loyalists reference the Nova Scotia repository and the King's Insurance. Were they talking about the pit? Some historians speculated held drafts of treaties, proof of spy networks, even evidence of covert French aid to rebels, documents explosive enough to rewrite the revolution's aftermath. If true, the money pit isn't just a gold mine. It's a time capsule from the birth of a nation waiting to spill its secrets. For all the intrigue surrounding man-made theories, Oak Island's money pit might not be the work of pirates, Templars, or British loyalists at all. What if the answer lies not in human hands, but in the raw power of nature itself? Geologists have long debated whether the pit structure could be the result of natural phenomena, a sinkhole carved by collapsing bedrock or glacial deposits left behind by ancient ice sheets. Take sinkholes, for example. These sudden collapses occur when groundwater dissolves soft rock like limestone, creating underground cavities that eventually give way. Nova Scotia's geology is riddled with such formations, particularly in areas rich in gypsum, a mineral highly susceptible to erosion. Could the money pit's initial depression have formed this way? Proponents of this theory point to the island's frequent flooding events. The seawater that plagues excavators might not be part of an elaborate trap, but simply the natural water table filling a void. Even the layers of logs and stones could be debris washed in over centuries, not deliberate construction. Then there's the glacial argument. 12,000 years ago, massive ice sheets blanketed the region, grinding rock into sediment and sculpting the landscape as they retreated. These glaciers often left behind kettle holes, deep pits formed by buried blocks of ice that later melted. Oak Island's terrain shows signs of this activity, with scattered boulders and irregular depressions common in glacial zones. The coconut fibers, those might have arrived via ocean currents, snagged in natural fissures long after any human intervention. But here's where the debate ignites. While sinkholes and glacial marks are plausible, they don't easily explain the pit's precise symmetry or the artificial-looking platforms. Skeptics counter that nature rarely produces such orderly layers, especially not with foreign materials like tropical fibers. Recent sonar scans add fuel to the fire, revealing what appear to be hand-cut tunnels branching beneath the island, far too geometric to be random erosion. So does this mean the pit is definitively man-made? Not necessarily. Geology is full of surprises. Take the naturally occurring underground structures, documented in places like Vietnam's Hang Son Doong, where water and time carved caverns so vast they host their own ecosystems. Could Oak Island's anomalies be a similar fluke of nature, embellished by wishful thinking? Or is the truth somewhere in between, a natural formation later modified by human hands? One thing's certain, whether shaped by ice, water, or ancient engineers, the money pit refuses to fit neatly into any single explanation. And that's what makes it so endlessly fascinating. The Earth keeps its secrets well, sometimes too well. Legends don't just haunt Oak Island, they demand payment. Among the most chilling tales woven into the money pit's lore is the so-called Curse of Seven, a prophecy that 7 men must die before its treasure can be claimed. This isn't just ghost story fodder, it's a grim tally backed by real lives lost in pursuit of the pit's secrets. The first to fall was a worker with the Truro Company in 1849. As crews attempted to outsmart the flooding tunnels by drilling boreholes, a boiler pump exploded, scalding a man to death in an instant. His colleagues took it as a warning. The island, they whispered, was fighting back. Decades later, the curse claimed its second victim. In 1861, a young laborer named Maynard Kaiser leaned too far over the edge of a shaft when the wooden supports gave way. He plummeted 60 feet, his body never recovered from the watery collapse. By 1897, the count climbed to 4. 2 men suffocated when a poorly ventilated tunnel filled with carbon monoxide from their own lanterns. Their deaths cemented the island's reputation as a death trap, but also fueled its allure. Treasure hunters began speaking of the curse in hushed tones, as if the pit itself was a living adversary demanding sacrifice. Then came the 20th century's tragedies. In 1935, a man named Robert Ristall, a former circus performer turned Oak Island obsessive, led one of the most ambitious excavations in decades. For 6 years, he drained swamps, mapped tunnels, and even claimed to have decoded symbols pointing to the treasure's location. But in August 1965, Ristall, his son, and 2 other workers were overcome by hydrogen sulfide gas leaking from a shaft. They collapsed within minutes, their bodies pulled from the pit foaming at the mouth. The curse's count now stood at 6. The 7th death arrived in 1971, when a dragoman, a specialist in underground rescue, drowned while inspecting a flooded shaft. His death, coming so close to Ristall's, seemed to fulfill the prophecy, yet the treasure remained elusive. Was the curse real, or just a string of tragic coincidences magnified by desperation? Modern skeptics point to the perilous conditions of early excavations: rickety scaffolding, untested gases, and the relentless seawater that turned every dig into a high-stakes gamble. But for those who have felt Oak Island's pull, the curse is more than superstition. It's a reminder that some secrets aren't just hidden, they're guarded. And perhaps that's the pit's darkest riddle. Whether the deaths were fate or folly, they've become part of its legend, a price etched into every shovel's thrust. Today, as high-tech drills probe the island's depths, the curse lingers like a shadow. 7 have paid the toll. So where's the treasure, unless the island's keeping an 8th secret, one no one's willing to die for? By the mid-19th century, Oak Island's money pit had already tormented treasure hunters for decades, but the arrival of the Truro Company in 1849 marked a turning point. This group wasn't just another band of hopeful amateurs. They were methodical, well-funded, and determined to crack the pit's defenses with engineering rather than brute force. What they uncovered would become some of the most tantalizing and frustrating clues in the island's history. Their first breakthrough came when drill samples pulled up from 90 feet below struck something startling, a layer of spruce wood followed by fragments of metal and what appeared to be loose parchment. The wood wasn't just debris, it was another platform, identical to those found higher up, suggesting the pit's architects had built it in deliberate, measured stages. But the real shock came next. As the drill bit pierced deeper, it hit a 2-inch thick slab of stone, smooth and unmistakably worked by human hands. When retrieved, the stone bore strange, hand-carved symbols later dubbed the 90-foot stone. Though its inscriptions were initially dismissed as random scratches, a local schoolteacher would later claim to have deciphered them, translating the markings to read, 40 feet below, £2 million lie buried. But the Truro crew's excitement quickly turned to dread. As they attempted to dig past the stone, seawater erupted into the shaft with terrifying force. This wasn't the gradual seepage earlier excavators had faced. It was a deluge, as if the ocean itself had been waiting to pounce. The men barely escaped with their lives, watching helplessly as their equipment vanished under the rising tide. It was then they realized the truth. The money pit wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was the heart of an elaborate hydraulic trap connected to the sea by a network of flood tunnels engineered with terrifying precision. Working backward, the team traced the tunnels to a nearby beach where they uncovered a feat of ancient ingenuity. Someone had carved a hidden channel through bedrock, lining it with coconut fibers to prevent erosion, then concealing its entrance beneath layers of sand and gravel. At high tide, water would surge through this covert pipeline, flooding the pit with mathematical efficiency. The design was so sophisticated that modern engineers still debate how it could have been built without metal tools or blueprints. The Truro Company's discoveries should have been triumphant. Instead, they became a cautionary tale. After exhausting their funds and nearly losing men to the pit's watery wrath, the group abandoned their dig in 1850, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions. Who crafted this stone slab, and why go to such lengths to encode a message if the treasure was meant to stay hidden? Why build a vault so impregnable that even its creators might struggle to reclaim its contents? The Truro expedition proved one thing: Oak Island's secrets weren't just buried, they were protected, and 2 centuries later we're still grappling with the same chilling realization. Some doors once shut were never meant to be reopened. The 1860s brought fresh hope and spectacular disaster to Oak Island's cursed soil with the arrival of the Oak Island Association. Flush with investor cash and armed with steam-powered pumps, this ambitious syndicate vowed to conquer the money pit's floods once and for all. But what they didn't anticipate was how thoroughly the island would outwit them. Their first mistake, underestimating the sheer scale of the pit's defenses. As workers sank a new shaft adjacent to the original, they hit a network of horizontal tunnels spewing seawater with the force of a geyser. The team's state-of-the-art pumps ran non-stop for weeks, battling what one engineer described as the ocean itself punching up through the earth. Then came the collapse. In 1861, the main shaft's walls crumbled without warning, swallowing thousands of dollars worth of equipment in seconds. The disaster exposed a horrifying truth. Decades of haphazard digging had turned the area beneath the pit into a honeycomb of unstable voids. Now, every new excavation risked triggering a chain reaction of cave-ins. Desperate, the association tried a bold new tactic: dynamite. Their plan was to blast sealed the flood tunnels, but the explosions only worsened the chaos. Salt water surged through fresh cracks, and the pit morphed into a toxic slurry of mud and debris. Financial ruin followed engineering failure. Shares in the association, once traded like lottery tickets, became worthless as investors fled. By 1865, the group dissolved in disgrace, leaving behind a bankrupt syndicate and a pit more impenetrable than ever. But their legacy wasn't just financial wreckage. They'd unwittingly proven that brute force was no match for the pit's ingenuity. Those flood tunnels weren't just accidental seepage. They were a precision-engineered failsafe, rerouting seawater through new pathways whenever old ones were blocked. The final insult: workers clearing debris later found a scattering of ancient coins and a rusted hinge artifacts that hinted tantalizingly at what might lie deeper. But with the pit now dangerously unstable and the association's funds exhausted, the treasures remained as distant as ever. Oak Island had absorbed their best efforts, their technology, and their fortunes, only to retreat further into myth. And somewhere beneath the collapsed shafts and flooded chambers, the money pit's original architects must have been smiling. Their creation wasn't just winning, it was evolving. Franklin Delano Roosevelt's connection to Oak Island began long before he entered the White House back in 1909, when the ambitious 27-year-old was just a young lawyer with a taste for adventure. That summer, he invested $5,000, a small fortune at the time, to join the Old Gold Salvage Group, one of the most sophisticated expeditions to ever probe the money pit's secrets. What drew a man of Roosevelt's stature to a remote Canadian island? His private diaries reveal an obsession as intellectual as it was financial. For FDR, Oak Island wasn't just about treasure. It was a living puzzle, a test of human ingenuity against the riddles of history. His team brought cutting-edge technology to the dig, including early electric pumps and diamond-tipped drills capable of boring through bedrock. Roosevelt's logs describe the thrill of extracting wood splinters from 150 feet down, fragments that matched no known North American tree, suggesting foreign timber deliberately placed. Even more intriguing were the tiny flecks of gold detected in drill samples, though never in quantities substantial enough to prove a hoard. But it wasn't just the physical finds that captivated him. The future president filled pages with sketches of the pit's engineering, marveling at the near-military precision of its flood tunnels. Some historians believe these observations later influenced his New Deal projects, where large-scale hydraulic engineering became a hallmark of his policies. Yet Oak Island's grip on Roosevelt outlasted his active digging. Long after the expedition disbanded, he kept a framed map of the island in his Oval Office, often pointing to it during meetings as a metaphor for perseverance. During the darkest days of World War II, he reportedly told aides, "If we could crack the money pit, we can crack the Nazis." The parallels were striking. Both were battles against seemingly insurmountable defenses, requiring patience, innovation, and sheer willpower. Decades later, researchers examining his papers found something startling: a 1937 memo to British Prime Minister Winston Churchill referencing our shared interest in Nova Scotia's historical defenses. Was Roosevelt hinting at undisclosed wartime intelligence about Oak Island, or simply reminiscing with a fellow history buff? The truth may never be clear. But one thing is certain: the island's mystery burrowed deep into Roosevelt's psyche, shaping his worldview in ways even he might not have fully understood. For a man who guided a nation through depression and war, Oak Island remained the one puzzle he couldn't solve, and perhaps the one that never stopped challenging him. By 1965, the legend of Oak Island had consumed men for generations, but few fell under its spell as completely as Robert Ristall. A former motorcycle stunt performer turned treasure hunter, Ristall arrived on the island in 1959 with his wife Mildred and their teenage son, Bobby. What began as a summer adventure soon became an all-consuming obsession. For 6 grueling years, the family lived in a ramshackle cabin, draining swamps, mapping tunnels, and battling the pit's relentless floods with little more than hand pumps and sheer determination. Ristall's approach was different from previous hunters. Where others saw a vault of gold, he believed the money pit was a decoy, that the real treasure lay hidden elsewhere on the island, waiting to be uncovered through code-breaking and careful study of the landscape. His notebooks, preserved by his widow, reveal a man convinced he'd cracked Oak Island's secrets. Ristall documented strange alignments between rock formations, symbols etched into boulders near the shore, and a peculiar triangular depression in Nolan's Cross, a series of massive, moss-covered stones arranged in a geometric pattern. He theorized these were markers left by the pit's builders, a trail of breadcrumbs leading to secondary chambers. Then, in August 1965, Ristall made a chilling entry. The gas is the key. It's not just water we're fighting. He'd noticed bubbles rising from a flooded shaft, a sign of something far deadlier than seawater lurking beneath. On August 17th, Ristall, his son, and 2 workers, Carl Greaser and Cyril Hiltz, gathered at Borehole 10, a shaft near the infamous swamp. Eyewitness accounts describe Ristall leaning over the opening to adjust a pump when he suddenly collapsed. Bobby rushed to help, only to crumple beside him. Greaser and Hiltz followed in a desperate rescue attempt, but within minutes, all 4 men lay motionless at the pit's edge. The cause, hydrogen sulfide, a toxic gas produced by decaying organic matter in oxygen-starved environments. Later tests showed concentrations so high, a single breath could induce paralysis. The tragedy should have been a wake-up call, but the island's grip only tightened. Ristall's surviving notebooks hinted at coordinates for the vault, sparking fresh expeditions. Some believe he died on the brink of a breakthrough, his theories validated by the very gas that killed him, proof of artificial chambers below. Others see a darker irony, that Oak Island's true treasure wasn't gold, but the way it lured men to trade their lives for shadows on a cave wall. What's undeniable is this Ristall story cemented the pit's reputation as a place where dreams and doom walk hand in hand, and somewhere beneath that swamp, his final discovery may still be waiting. The 1970s brought a seismic shift in the Oak Island saga, when a high-stakes drilling operation spearheaded by the Triton Alliance seemed to finally pierce the money pit's deepest secrets. Their focus, a site dubbed Borehole 10X, a shaft drilled just northeast of the original pit, where ground-penetrating radar had detected what looked like artificial cavities nearly 200 feet below. What they pulled up from those depths would ignite a firestorm of controversy and rewrite the island's lore forever. The first clue came in 1971, when Triton's drill bit punched through a layer of bedrock and suddenly dropped into open space. Sensors registered a cavern roughly 7 feet high, far larger than natural fissures found in the area. Then came the real shock. Core samples returned flecks of metal, slivers of wood, and most chillingly, fragments of human bone. Forensic analysis later identified them as belonging to 2 separate individuals, one possibly of European descent, the other of Middle Eastern origin. The discovery sent theorists into overdrive. Were these the remains of the pit's builders, victims sacrificed to guard its secrets, or evidence of something even darker hidden beneath the island? But it wasn't just bones that fueled the frenzy. Mixed in with the sediment were strands of wire, rusted iron staples, and what appeared to be pieces of chain, artifacts suggesting a man-made chamber. Even skeptics couldn't dismiss the strangest find of all, a single palm-sized piece of brass bearing faint, unidentifiable markings. Triton's engineers argued these weren't random debris. The way the metal fragments clustered together hinted at a deliberate deposit, as if someone had dismantled a container or tool centuries earlier. The climax came when divers attempted to reach the chamber itself. In 1976, after weeks of pumping out water, a team descended into 10X's murky depths. At 90 feet, their lights flickered over what looked like a crude wooden wall. But before they could investigate further, swirling sediment and collapsing debris forced them to abort. The sole photograph captured that day shows nothing but a blur of shadows, leaving the chamber's contents to speculation. Critics were quick to pounce. Geologists pointed out that Nova Scotia's bedrock naturally contains fissures, and the human bones could have been animal remains misidentified in the excitement. As for the metal, sailors and fishermen had combed the island for centuries. Dropped tools or lost supplies could have settled into cracks over time. Even Triton's own members later admitted some artifacts might have been planted accidentally or otherwise by previous excavation teams whose debris littered the island. Yet the mystery endures. Modern sonar scans still show unexplained voids at 10X's depths, and recent isotopic analysis of the brass fragment suggests it was smelted from ore not native to North America. Whether it's proof of a buried vault or just another dead end, one thing's certain: Borehole 10X didn't solve Oak Island's riddle, it deepened it, and somewhere below, in that darkness beyond the drills and sensors, the island keeps its oldest secrets locked away. In the early 2000s, Oak Island's legend found fresh life through two unlikely explorers, Rick and Marty Lagina, brothers from Michigan whose childhood fascination with the money pit evolved into one of history's most high-stakes treasure hunts. Their journey, chronicled in the hit series The Curse of Oak Island, didn't just revive public obsession with the mystery, it rewrote the playbook for how to approach it. Armed with modern technology, deep pockets, and a blend of scientific rigor and unshakable curiosity, the Laginas have spent over a decade peeling back layers of the island's secrets, one astonishing discovery at a time. One of their most headline-grabbing finds surfaced in 2016, when metal detectors near the island's shoreline pinged on a small, crudely shaped lead cross. Carbon dating placed its origins between the 12th and 14th centuries before European colonization of the area. But the real shock came when metallurgists analyzed its composition. The lead matched ore samples from medieval France, with traces of gold suggesting it might have been gilded. For Templar theorists, this was a smoking gun. The Knights Templar were known to use lead crosses as portable reliquaries, often embedding fragments of holy artifacts inside. Could this unassuming object be proof they'd reached Oak Island long before Columbus? Skeptics countered that it might have been dropped by later settlers, but the Laginas weren't done. Then came the Roman sword theory. During a dive in the island's murky waters, a team member recovered what appeared to be a centuries-old blade, its design eerily reminiscent of Roman gladius swords. Though the artifact was later debated, some experts claimed it was a 19th-century naval cutlass. The discovery fueled speculation that Oak Island's history might stretch even further back than anyone imagined. Ancient Roman voyages to North America remain a topic of fierce academic debate, but if verified, this blade could upend conventional timelines entirely. But the Lagina's most compelling evidence might lie beneath the island's infamous swamp. Ground-penetrating radar revealed unnatural, geometric shapes buried in the muck structures that align with medieval construction techniques. Excavations uncovered hand-wrought iron spikes, more coconut fibers, and even a layer of mercury, a metal historically used to preserve documents. Each clue points to a deliberate, sophisticated operation, far beyond the capabilities of random pirates or stranded sailors. What sets the Laginas apart isn't just their finds, it's their method. They've mapped the island's underground waterways with sonar, proving the flood tunnels aren't myth but meticulously engineered reality. They've drilled core samples that brought up oak splinters and parchment from depths exceeding 160 feet. And perhaps most intriguingly, they've uncovered evidence of human activity dating back to the 1400s, long before official records suggest anyone set foot on the island. Yet for all their breakthroughs, the Money Pit's core secret remains just out of reach. The brothers have faced setbacks, collapsed shafts, legal battles, and the ever-present curse that looms over their digs. But their persistence has redefined Oak Island's story. No longer just a relic of 18th century folklore, the island is now a living archaeological puzzle where every shovel of dirt could rewrite history. Whether the Laginas finally uncover gold or simply more questions, one thing's certain: their quest has ensured that Oak Island's enigma will captivate us for generations to come. And so the hunt continues, not just for treasure, but for the truth behind one of history's greatest riddles. With each passing season, the line between legend and reality blurs a little more. What started as a boyhood dream for two brothers from Michigan has become a global obsession, proving that some mysteries refuse to stay buried. Beneath the layers of mud and myth, Oak Island has surrendered strange fragments of its past objects so out of place they defy easy explanation. Take the coconut fibers, for instance, discovered deep in the Money Pit shaft and scattered along the island's shores. These coarse, woven strands shouldn't exist in Nova Scotia's icy climate. Coconuts aren't native to Canada, nor were they traded here in the 18th century. Yet lab tests confirmed their origin: tropical palms, possibly from the Caribbean. Pirates used coconut fiber as packing material for fragile cargo, leading some to speculate it lined crates of stolen treasure. Others point to Spanish galleons where coconuts were stowed as emergency rations. But here's the twist: carbon dating places some fibers as early as the 1400s, centuries before European ships frequented these waters. Could they be remnants of a pre-Columbian voyage, evidence that someone else reached Oak Island long before history books say they should have? Then there are the coins. Over the years, searchers have unearthed Spanish silver reals, Portuguese cruzados, even a British halfpenny minted in the 1700s. At first glance, they fit the pirate narrative: scattered loot from a plundered ship. But the dates tell a stranger story. One silver reel, found buried near the swamp, was struck in Lima around 1650. That's decades before the island's first recorded excavation, and thousands of miles from where Spanish ships typically sailed. How did it get here? Some theorists suggest privateers like Henry Morgan raided Spanish colonies and funneled treasure north to evade capture. Others wonder if the coins were part of a larger cache, dropped by accident during a frenzied burial. But no artifact has sparked more debate than the so-called hatch. In 2016, metal detectors near Nolan's Cross pinged on a bizarre, palm-sized object, a flat metal disc with a raised center and odd protrusions, resembling a crude spaceship or medieval shield boss. Initial scans revealed it was made of wrought iron with traces of gold plating. The Laginas dubbed it the hatch, and speculation exploded. Was it a decorative fitting from a ship's hull? A piece of Templar armor, or something far older? Independent researchers noted its resemblance to Bronze Age votive objects found in Europe, while skeptics dismissed it as a broken farm tool. The truth remains elusive, but one detail chills the bones. The hatch was found near a drilled hole, as if it once sealed a hidden compartment. Each of these artifacts is a breadcrumb in Oak Island's labyrinth. The coconut fibers suggest a global network of trade or theft long before historians acknowledge it. The coins hint at fortunes moved in shadow far from official records. And the hatch, it's a riddle wrapped in rust, a silent witness to a story we're still piecing together. For every theory they validate, these objects raise 10 new questions. And that's the island's cruelest trick. The closer we get to its heart, the more it scatters the trail. The Money Pit's most infamous defense isn't hidden treasure or collapsing earth, it's water. The moment excavators breach certain depths, seawater erupts into the shaft with terrifying force, as if the ocean itself is guarding the secret. But this isn't accidental flooding. The tunnels feeding this deluge form a labyrinth of precision engineering. Their design so sophisticated it sparked a centuries-old debate. Were these booby traps the work of ancient master builders or later hands reinforcing an already mysterious site? Let's follow the water. In 1850, the Truro Company first traced the flood tunnels back to Smith's Cove, a beach 500 feet from the pit. There, beneath layers of sand, they uncovered a network of finger-like channels lined with coconut fiber, a material that acts as a natural filter, preventing sediment from clogging the system. These channels converged into a single, stone-lined conduit that sloped downward, funneling seawater directly toward the money pit. The genius or cruelty of the design lies in its inevitability. High tide doesn't just seep in, it surges through this hidden pipeline with the force of a fire hose, overwhelming pumps and collapsing walls. Modern engineers estimate the system could flood the pit in under 20 minutes, a feat requiring an intimate understanding of hydraulics and local geology. So who built it? Proponents of ancient origins point to the coconut fibers, carbon dated to the 1400s, long before verified European presence in the area. The tunnel's alignment with natural limestone suggests builders exploited the island's geology deliberately, something pirate crews lacked the expertise to do. Even the fiber's weaving technique matches pre-Columbian Caribbean styles, fueling speculation that Oak Island's architects came from a lost maritime culture with advanced knowledge. But skeptics counter with a later modifications theory. Early accounts note the pit only began flooding consistently after the 1849 excavation, when the Truro team accidentally punctured what might have been a natural water table. Could later treasure hunters, desperate to deter rivals, have enhanced existing fissures into a full flood system? The discovery of 19th-century tools near Smith's Cove supports this, some etched with Masonic symbols, hinting at secretive efforts to improve the pit's defenses. The truth might lie in between. Sonar scans reveal tunnels of differing ages, some cut through bedrock with primitive tools, others showing drill marks from the industrial era. Like layers of a palimpsest, Oak Island's defenses might have been upgraded across centuries, each generation adding to the puzzle. Whether ancient or modern, one thing's certain: the flood tunnels aren't just barriers. They're a message written in saltwater and stone. Some secrets aren't meant to be uncovered. At the heart of Oak Island's mysteries lies a stretch of waterlogged earth so peculiar it defies nature, the infamous swamp. Unlike typical wetlands, this triangular bog sits at an elevation that should keep it dry, yet its murky waters never fully drain. Even stranger, core samples reveal layers of crushed stone and gravel beneath the muck, arranged with deliberate precision. The swamp doesn't just exist, it was built, and the theories about why it's there are as wild as the island itself. One of the most tantalizing possibilities involves a ship buried beneath its surface. Sonar scans have detected odd, angular shapes resting in the swamp's depths, structures with straight edges and sharp corners that clash with nature's randomness. Some researchers swear these resemble the hull of a centuries-old vessel, possibly a galleon scuttled to conceal treasure. The logic is chilling. Pirates or privateers could have intentionally flooded the area, turning their ship into a hidden vault. Divers probing the mire have pulled up hand-forged iron spikes and planking fragments, their wood species matching those used in 17th century shipbuilding. Even the swamp's high salt content hints at seawater being channeled in, as if to preserve something submerged, but ships aren't the only secrets the swamp might guard. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed what look like stone tunnels snaking beneath the bog, their geometry too precise for natural erosion. These could be flood channels feeding the money pit or something far more intriguing. In 2014, workers excavating the swamp's edge uncovered a U-shaped structure of fitted stones, its design echoing ancient drainage systems found in medieval European monasteries. Templar theorists pounced, suggesting the swamp was never a hiding place but a decoy, drawing attention away from deeper chambers below. Then there's the mercury. In 2018, soil tests near the swamp's center showed alarming concentrations of liquid mercury, a metal historically used to preserve documents or religious relics. Was someone trying to protect parchment buried in the muck? The idea gains traction when paired with another odd find: a shred of parchment pulled from a drill core deep in the money pit, its surface stained with quill ink. Could the swamp be the capstone to a vast underground archive where volatile chemicals were deployed to deter thieves? Theories multiply with every shovel of mud. Some believe the swamp marks the entrance to a backfilled tunnel system, its waters hiding a passageway to the pit's true treasure chamber. Others argue it's a sacred geometric marker, its triangular shape aligning with celestial events or Templar symbolism. One fringe theory even suggests the swamp was a medieval-era shadow dock, where ships unloaded cargo under cover of darkness, their contents funneled into subterranean vaults through hidden ramps. What's undeniable is the swamp's unnatural stubbornness. Despite decades of pumping and dredging, it refuses to fully drain, as if fighting to keep its secrets submerged. Each attempt to probe its depths yields fresh clues and fresh contradictions. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just a waterlogged depression. It's an engineered puzzle, a liquid lock guarding whatever lies beneath. And until someone cracks its code, the swamp will keep its secrets, one murky ripple at a time. For centuries, Oak Island's mysteries have been pieced together with shovels and speculation, but modern science is now rewriting the story with hard evidence. Recent DNA analysis of plant species found on the island has uncovered a bombshell: strands of European grapevine and olive pollen embedded in sediment layers dating back to the 1400s. These aren't just exotic hitchhickers, they're Mediterranean species that couldn't have crossed the Atlantic naturally. Botanists confirm the pollen grains match varieties cultivated in Spain and southern France during the Middle Ages, long before European settlers officially reached Nova Scotia. Even more startling, the samples cluster around the swamp and money pit, as if deliberately planted or tracked in by human activity. Then there's the soil itself. Ground-penetrating radar and chemical isotope testing have revealed unnatural concentrations of metals like mercury and gold in precise, geometric patterns far higher than background levels found elsewhere on the island. One theory suggests these are leaching traces from buried artifacts, possibly corroded containers or even gilded relics. But the real revelation came in 2021 when researchers identified traces of ancient tannins, compounds used in medieval parchment preservation, mixed with the mercury deposits. Could this be the ghostly residue of disintegrated documents like Templar scrolls or maps, once sealed in metal cases to withstand the pit's relentless damp? The most provocative clue, though, lies in the island's trees. Core samples from oak stumps near Nolan's Cross show growth rings with bizarre anomalies, years of stunted development followed by sudden bursts, a pattern consistent with deliberate pruning or root disturbance. Arborists point to similar marks found in sacred groves across Europe, where ancient cultures trimmed trees to align with celestial events. And here's the chilling detail: some of these oaks were already centuries old when the first Europeans supposedly arrived. Whoever shaped them knew things about this land and its secrets long before history noticed. Science hasn't just added to Oak Island's enigma, it's peeled back layers of assumption. The island isn't just hiding treasure, it's guarding evidence of a story far older and far stranger than pirate legends ever imagined. And with every test tube and soil scan, we're not just digging for gold anymore. We're reading fragments of a lost chapter of human history, written in pollen, metal, and the very roots of the trees themselves. For all the tantalizing theories and high-tech discoveries swirling around Oak Island, a chorus of experts remains unconvinced. Archaeologists and geologists have long dismissed the Money Pit as anything more than an elaborate natural formation, or worse, a centuries-old hoax designed to separate hopeful treasure hunters from their fortunes. Their arguments hinge on cold, hard science and a ruthless dissection of the so-called evidence that has fueled this legend for generations. Start with the pit's infamous flooding. While treasure hunters point to the seawater surges as proof of an engineered booby trap, geologists like Nova Scotia's own Ian Spooner argue it's simply the island's natural water table at work. The entire region sits atop porous limestone, a sponge-like rock riddled with fissures that fill and drain with the tides. Drill into it, and seawater will inevitably rush in, no medieval hydraulics required. As for the flood tunnels at Smith's Cove, Spooner's core samples reveal they're likely just eroded cracks in the bedrock, exaggerated by 2 centuries of frantic digging and wishful thinking. Then there's the issue of the artifacts. Skeptics note that many of the most famous finds, like the 90-foot stone or the lead cross, lack verifiable provenance. The original stone vanished without a trace in the early 1900s, leaving only disputed copies of its symbols. Even the much-touted coconut fibers could have arrived via ocean currents, washed ashore from shipwrecks or discarded cargo. Maritime historian John O'Brien points out that Nova Scotia's shores are littered with foreign debris, from African mahogany to Caribbean coral, carried north by the powerful Gulf Stream. But the most damning critique targets the pit's very origins. Historian Joy Steele's research suggests the entire legend might have sprung from a clever 18th-century scam. Around the time of the pit's alleged discovery, Nova Scotia was awash in get-rich-quick schemes, from silver mine hoaxes to buried privateer loot. Steele's theory: the Money Pit was a salting operation, a carefully staged ruse where shills planted clues like gold flecks or parchment to lure wealthy backers into funding endless excavations. The flooding, a convenient way to ensure no one ever reached the bottom and exposed the trick. Even the curse, skeptics argue, is less supernatural than tragically predictable. Early excavations were death traps, shoddily dug shafts prone to collapse, with no ventilation to disperse deadly gases. Modern safety standards didn't exist, and the island's waterlogged, unstable geology made cave-ins inevitable. The 7 must die prophecy, a self-fulfilling tally of careless accidents, later mythologized to sell books and fund new digs. Yet for all their debunking, the skeptics' greatest frustration isn't with the legends, it's with the selective interpretation of evidence. Carbon-dated wood fragments get hailed as proof of Templar activity, while inconvenient results like samples matching 19th-century lumber get ignored. Sonar anomalies become hidden chambers, ignoring the island's natural caves and glacial sinkholes. As archaeologist J. Hutton Pulitzer bluntly puts it, you can't claim every piece of rusted iron is a Templar relic while dismissing the mountain of evidence that says otherwise. But here's the twist: even the harshest critics admit Oak Island's real treasure might be its storytelling power. Whether nature's fluke or a masterclass in long con, the pit's enduring grip on our imagination reveals something primal, our hunger for mysteries that outlast logic. The skeptic's verdict is clear: there's no gold, no curse, no lost civilization, just an empty hole and the echoes of 200 years of broken dreams. Yet somehow, that's never quite enough to stop the next shovel from breaking ground. Oak Island's Money Pit isn't just a real-life enigma, it's a cultural phenomenon, a story so gripping it's bled into books, screens, and even the collective imagination of treasure hunters worldwide. Long before the Lagina brothers brought the island to modern audiences, authors and filmmakers were spinning their own versions of its legend, each adding layers to the mythos. One of the earliest literary nods came in 1864, when a dime novel titled The Mystery of Oak Island hit shelves, dramatizing the pit as a pirate's lair filled with skeletons and cursed gold. The book was pure pulp fiction, but it tapped into something primal, the idea that buried somewhere in Nova Scotia's soil lay a secret worth killing for. By the 20th century, the tale had grown legs. In 1928, explorer Gilbert Hedden stumbled upon a cryptic mention of the Money Pit in a detective novel, The Money Pit Mystery, which sent him racing to the island, proving fiction could spark real-life obsession. But the big leap came in 1955 with the publication of the Oak Island Enigma by explorer and historian R.V. Harris. His meticulously researched book framed the pit as an unsolvable riddle, blending fact with just enough speculation to make readers wonder, what if it's all true? Harris's work became the Bible for generations of treasure hunters, including a young FDR who reportedly kept a dog-eared copy in his Oval Office desk. Television catapulted the legend to new heights. The 1960s saw the first documentaries probing the island's secrets, but it was In Search of the Cult favorite series hosted by Leonard Nimoy that turned Oak Island into a household name. A 1979 episode titled The Money Pit Mystery treated the enigma with Nimoy's signature gravitas, weaving eyewitness accounts with eerie reenactments. The show's haunting conclusion that the pit might hold not just treasure but a key to history itself left viewers spellbound. Then came The Curse of Oak Island, the History Channel's smash hit reality series that debuted in 2014. The Lagina brothers' quest became a cultural touchstone, blending archaeology with high-stakes drama. The show's genius lay in its pacing. Each season peeled back just enough to keep audiences hooked, from uncovering Templar symbols to detecting underground voids with seismic technology. Critics dismissed it as treasure-hunting soap opera, but its impact was undeniable. Suddenly, families gathered around TVs to debate flood tunnel mechanics, and online forums exploded with fan theories. The show didn't just document the hunt, it became part of Oak Island's evolving myth, proving the pit's greatest treasure might be its storytelling power. Even Hollywood couldn't resist. Rumors swirled for years about a blockbuster adaptation. Steven Spielberg was allegedly eyeing the rights in the 90s, but the island's refusal to yield answers kept scripts in development hell. Instead, its influence seeped into films like National Treasure and The Goonies, where booby-trapped vaults and coded maps echoed Oak Island's DNA. The pit's fingerprints are everywhere, from video games like Uncharted to best-selling novels like The Lost Symbol, where Dan Brown borrowed its aura of ancient conspiracies. What makes Oak Island's grip on pop culture so enduring? It's the perfect storm of mystery and possibility. The pit isn't just a hole, it's a blank canvas. Every generation projects its own fantasies onto it, whether pirate gold, Templar relics, or lost manuscripts. And as long as the earth keeps a few secrets buried, the story will never end. The real treasure, it seems, isn't what's hidden beneath the island, it's the tales we tell about it. Beneath the layers of mud and mystery, Oak Island hides another kind of battle, one fought not with shovels but with lawsuits and land deeds. The quest for treasure has sparked decades of bitter legal feuds, turning the island into a patchwork of competing claims, fractured partnerships, and courtroom drama. At the center of it all, a tangled web of ownership that's nearly as complex as the money pit itself. Take the saga of Fred Nolan, a surveyor turned treasure hunter who spent over 5 decades mapping the island's secrets. In the 1960s, Nolan began quietly buying up parcels of land, convinced that the real treasure lay not in the pit, but beneath a series of mysterious stone triangles he'd discovered. His efforts made him one of the island's largest private landowners and put him on a collision course with the Triton Alliance, a rival group led by Dan Blankenship. Their feud turned so hostile that Nolan once strung a barbed wire fence across the island, literally drawing a line in the sand. Lawsuits flew back and forth for years, with Nolan accusing Triton of trespassing and Triton countering that his land deals were shady. At one point, Nolan even claimed to have found a centuries-old Spanish coin on Blankenship's property, fueling suspicions of sabotage. the conflict only ended with Blankenship's death in 2019, leaving behind a legacy of unresolved grudges. Then there's the Lagina brothers' high-stakes gamble. When Rick and Marty first arrived in the 2000s, they knew cracking the money pit meant securing more than just excavation rights. It required untangling a century of legal chaos. Their solution, a risky partnership with Blankenship himself, who still controlled key sections of the island. The deal gave the Laginas access to the pit, but it came with strings attached. Blankenship retained a share of any fines, and his son would later allege the brothers sidelined his father in their quest for TV fame. Meanwhile, the Nolan family, now led by Fred's heirs, remained holdouts, refusing to sell their land or share their research. The resulting tension simmered for years, with the Lagina's team occasionally barred from zones where Fred's mysterious stone markers pointed. But the legal quagmire runs deeper than feuds between treasure hunters. Nova Scotia's strict heritage laws mean that even if gold were found, the government could claim a cut or halt digging altogether to preserve potential archaeological sites. In 2014, the Laginas faced a bureaucratic nightmare when their permits were delayed over concerns about damaging the island's ecosystem. And let's not forget the anonymous shell companies that have quietly snatched up parcels over the years, sparking rumors of wealthy collectors or secretive societies buying into the mystery. What does all this mean for the hunt? Simple. Oak Island's treasure isn't just buried under dirt and seawater. It's locked behind a vault of legal red tape. Every shovel strike risks a lawsuit. Every discovery invites a custody battle. The island's greatest defense mechanism might not be booby traps or curses, but the sheer headache of untangling who really owns it. And as long as that question remains unanswered, the money pit's secrets may stay buried, not by design, but by paperwork. Among all the artifacts pulled from Oak Island's depths, none taunts treasure hunters quite like the infamous 90-foot stone. Discovered by the Onslow Company in 1802, this slab of sandstone was pried loose from the pit's murky depths. Its surface etched with symbols so cryptic they fueled 2 centuries of speculation and frustration. Eyewitness accounts describe the markings as a mix of angular runes and looping curves, some resembling archaic letters, others like astrological signs. But the stone's true torment lies in its fate. After being displayed in a Halifax bookbinder's shop for decades, it vanished without a trace in the early 1900s, leaving behind only hand-drawn sketches and disputed translations. The most famous interpretation comes from a 19th-century schoolteacher named James Lachai, who claimed the symbols spelled out a tantalizing clue. 40 feet below, £2 million lie buried. If accurate, the message would imply the pit's architects left a deliberate breadcrumb, a taunt or invitation for those persistent enough to reach deeper. But here's where the plot thickens. Freemason scholars later scrutinized the sketches, noting eerie parallels between the markings and Masonic cipher scripts used in lodge rituals. One symbol, a looping V with a dot, matches a Masonic shorthand for sacred, while another resembles the compass and square emblems central to their iconography. Could the stone have been a coded map meant only for initiated eyes? Skeptics, however, dismiss the translations as wishful thinking. The original rubbings of the stone show wear and ambiguous scratches open to interpretation. Some linguists argue the symbols align more closely with medieval stonemasons, marks simple identifiers used by quarry workers, than any complex code. Even the £2 million translation has been debunked by modern cryptographers, who point out that Lachai's alphabet key doesn't match any known cipher from the era. Then there's the stone's eerie disappearance. Theories range from the mundane, it was lost during a shop fire, to the conspiratorial. Some claim it was stolen by a rival treasure hunter. Others whisper it was quietly acquired by a secretive collector or even reclaimed by a Masonic lodge to protect its secrets. The most haunting possibility, the stone never existed as described, early accounts conflict, with some diggers recalling a plain rock bearing only faint scratches, later embellished into legend. Yet the 90-foot stone's legacy endures not as proof, but as a metaphor for Oak Island's endless tease. It's a relic that promises answers yet slips away, a riddle that transforms with every retelling. Whether Masonic map, misread quarry mark, or outright myth, its ghost lingers over the pit, a reminder that some secrets aren't just buried, they're written in stone, then erased. What if the money pit was never about gold or jewels at all? Some researchers argue Oak Island's labyrinth hides something far more extraordinary: sacred relics, lost knowledge, or even a clandestine operation that rewrites history. One provocative theory suggests the pit was designed as a vault for religious artifacts smuggled out of Europe during times of persecution. Imagine medieval monks or Templar knights, desperate to protect fragments of the true cross or forbidden gospels, engineering this hydraulic fortress to outlast empires. The island's flooding mechanisms would have served a dual purpose: drowning trespassers while creating a humid, stable environment ideal for preserving parchment or delicate metals. Recent discoveries lend eerie credence to this idea. Traces of mercury in the swamp match historical methods used to protect documents from mold, while the lead cross found by the Lagina's mirrors reliquaries crafted to hold holy fragments. But there's a twist. Another faction believes the pit was never meant to store anything. It was a weapon of deception. During the American Revolution, British loyalists fleeing Boston allegedly smuggled out military payrolls and sensitive documents. Could the money pit have been an elaborate ruse to distract rebel forces while real treasures were moved elsewhere? The timing aligns. The first recorded excavation occurred just 15 years after the British evacuation, as if someone had leaked clues to send treasure hunters on a wild goose chase. Even the infamous 90-foot stone fits this narrative. Its cryptic message, 40 feet below £2 million, might have been planted to lure attention away from the true cache, perhaps hidden in the island's uncharted eastern caves. Then there's the wildcard theory, the pit as art. 18th century elites occasionally commissioned grandiose earthworks as displays of power or philosophical statements. What if Oak Island's shafts and tunnels were the pet project of a wealthy eccentric, a physical manifestation of alchemical symbolism or Masonic riddles? The geometric precision of Nolan's cross and the swamp's triangular layout mirror sacred geometry found in Renaissance-era thought experiments. Even the flooding could have been part of the performance, a watery finale for anyone arrogant enough to disrupt the design. Each of these alternatives forces us to reconsider the pit's true nature. Whether shrine, spycraft, or sculpture, Oak Island's enigma endures precisely because it refuses to fit neatly into any single box. The real treasure might not lie in chests of coins, but in the audacity of whoever dared to dream on this scale, and the lengths they went to ensure their vision outlasted them. The hunt for Oak Island's secrets is far from over. In fact, it's entering its most thrilling chapter yet. With cutting-edge technologies now at our fingertips, the money pit's defenses may finally meet their match. Imagine LiDAR scanners piercing the island's dense foliage, revealing hidden structures invisible to the naked eye. These laser mapping systems have already uncovered lost cities in jungles and deserts by detecting subtle elevation changes in the terrain. Applied to Oak Island, they could expose forgotten tunnels or unnatural mounds buried under centuries of overgrowth. Early aerial surveys have hinted at geometric patterns near Nolan's Cross. Could LiDAR confirm these as man-made alignments pointing to secondary vaults? But the real game-changer lies beneath the water. Modern underwater drones, equipped with sonar and high-definition cameras, are probing the island's flooded tunnels with unprecedented precision. These robotic explorers can navigate toxic, oxygen-starved chambers too dangerous for human divers, capturing 3D maps of every nook and cranny. In 2022, a drone survey near Smith's Cove detected an abnormal void beneath the seabed, an unmarked cavern just large enough to hold a ship's cargo. Could this be the resting place of that rumored British loyalist vessel, its hull still packed with Revolutionary-era contraband? Then there's the promise of isotopic analysis, a forensic technique that could trace the origins of every nail, fiber, and metal fragment pulled from the pit. By matching elements like lead or gold to their geological sources, scientists might finally answer whether the artifacts came from Spanish galleons, medieval Europe, or somewhere even more unexpected. A recent study of the infamous lead cross revealed trace elements consistent with French mines active during the Templars' era, but also showed signs of later alloy mixing, leaving the door open to multiple timelines. Yet for all our technological leaps, Oak Island's greatest mysteries remain stubbornly out of reach. Who designed the flood tunnels with such ruthless ingenuity? Why go to such lengths to protect or conceal whatever lies at the pit's heart? And perhaps most haunting of all, if the treasure is ever found, will it live up to 2 centuries of obsession or reveal something so unexpected it rewrites the legend entirely? The answers may be closer than we think, as drill teams prepare to sink new boreholes into the island's bedrock and AI algorithms sift through centuries of fragmented records. One truth becomes clear: the next breakthrough won't come from a single eureka moment, but from the slow, painstaking marriage of old-fashioned grit and 21st century innovation. And that's the magic of Oak Island. It's no longer just a treasure hunt. It's a high-stakes experiment in how we unravel history itself. The Oak Island money pit isn't just a hole in the ground. It's a mirror held up to human curiosity, reflecting our endless hunger for the unknown. For over 2 centuries, this stubborn labyrinth has defied explorers, scientists, and skeptics alike, swallowing fortunes and lives while spitting out just enough clues to keep the dream alive. Whether you're convinced it's a pirate's trove, a Templar time capsule, or the world's most elaborate natural fluke, one thing's undeniable: the pit's true power lies in its ability to make us wonder. That tantalizing gap between evidence and myth, where a lead cross becomes a Templar relic, or a flooded tunnel transforms into an ancient booby trap, is where the magic lies. And isn't that the heart of every great mystery, not just the answer, but the thrill of the hunt itself? So where does that leave us? The facts are as murky as the pit's watery depths. We've got coconut fibers where they shouldn't be, symbols carved in stone and then lost to time, and tunnels that fight back like living things. We've got science hinting at unnatural patterns, and history whispering of missing treasures and vanished ships. But for every clue that points to human hands, there's another that suggests nature's sly deception. Maybe that's the pit's greatest trick: it refuses to be solved. It's a riddle that changes shape depending on who's holding the shovel. Now it's your turn. What's your theory? Pirates, Templars, a British loyalist's desperate gamble? Or something nobody's dreamed up yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because the best part of Oak Island isn't just digging for answers, it's sharing the adventure. And if you're hooked on mysteries that bend history, don't forget to hit subscribe. From lost civilizations to buried codes, we're just getting started. The world's full of puzzles waiting to be cracked. Who knows, the next big discovery might come from you. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the real treasure isn't what's buried, it's the story we uncover along the way.